Okay, let's move on to the practices, because that's the key, really. Although, where do I get to? About 4 weeks ago, we came to the end of our theory work, and this was going to be a 1-hour practice meeting, and it's ended up with me mostly talking again. So we're going to the practices now a little bit, and we're going to introduce you to some of the sound work, the mantras, and the tools that I practice, that I use myself, and have been using now for some time. Not all these practices go back to the times when I was a monk, because mostly when I was living in India, we used to just do mantra. Mantra was our key. Mantra was the door for us, and we used to focus on mantra meditation and nothing else. So I'm going to give you some extra things here, some extra tools, and then we'll try them out for a few minutes and see how it feels, just a little taste, and then that will conclude the evening. So we've got about half an hour to do that. So the first thing I want to introduce you to is this idea of sacred sound. Now, sound in the Vedic world really, you might say, forms the substrata of reality. Everything in reality, including this physical universe and everything that's manifest within it, was originally just sound. They call it, and I'm sure you've heard of this, they call it Om. That was the first utterance, you could say, Om. Yeah? The primal sound. And it underpins all other sounds. In other words, all other sounds really are emanations from this one sound. And it is the sound really of the Ajna center, which in the West we would call the third eye chakra. This is what we hear when we open this chakra. And I actually have heard this when I've been doing this this meditation that I'll introduce you to in a moment. When I've done this, and it's been really powerful, I've ommed on the inside, and it's been amazing. It was, as I described before, it was one of the most powerful experiences. It was just incredible. I felt as if it was going to dismantle every atom and molecule in my body. It was so strong. And yet it was so beautiful at the same time. So it wasn't threatening, it was just powerful and wonderful. And it was Om. And I could tell that it was always there, and I just happened to tap into it for a few seconds. So my understanding of that experience is that the universe is constantly Omming. That is the primal sound behind creation, the Om. The scientists would refer this to, really, they would call this the Big Bang. But really it was the Big Om. You know, it's the first sound. Now there were various other archetypes that came out of this. Now archetypes, really, what I mean by that is blueprints of consciousness. In other words, blueprints that our consciousness can follow. We often associate with archetypes at the subconscious level, so we're not aware of this. But there are various archetypes that exist within our collective subconscious mind as a human species that are also very useful for us to draw upon. And these in Sanskrit are known as the bija mantras. And as I was describing at the beginning of this talk about an hour and a half ago, bija literally means seed, mantra means mind tool. So these mantras are just one syllable or one letter for one petal of one chakra. Remember what I was saying at the beginning? So you just got one Sanskrit character, you might say, or sound. It's a bija. And this is an archetype of consciousness. It's one of the 50 archetypes that comprise our human consciousness according to the Vedic view. 50, because there are 50 petals inside our esoteric system. 50 expressions of consciousness in our chakras. No more than that. No less. Exactly 50. Can you see? Therefore 50 letters to the alphabet and 50 primal sounds or bija mantras. And these are different. Om is one, but there's another one that I use quite often before I give a talk, actually. I use the Aim sound. In Sanskrit, this is associated with Sarasvati, the archetype of learning and the throat center. So this is a petal that is awoken within the chakra of the throat that gives the power of speech and communication. Aim. And it's associated with a mantra that we have here. They're in the books for those that want to purchase one. The Aim mantra is here. It's associated with the goddess of learning. So it gives us activation here in this chakra, just saying I'm. But we can combine it in this way to give us more power and more energy. So this is known as the Sarasvati mantra. And it's supposedly the best mantra for beginners, because it opens the door to the ability to pronounce and to use the throat center to say mantras perfectly. So the first one that's always recommended to practice is the Sarasvati mantra. And it goes like this. Now I'm going to say it 3 times, and then I'm going to pause, and I want everyone just to feel how that resonates or how that feels, okay? Different from last time. Okay. So this is, I'm going to say it, so just you can close your eyes, you can just relax and just see how this feels. This is nothing to think about, just feel. Om Aim Sarasvatye Svaha. Om Aim Sarasvatye Svaha. Om Aim Sarasvatye Svaha.
Wow. I feel something in this.
That feels like something, doesn't it? Who didn't feel the power of that and the stillness of that? Now that took about a minute. And I can guarantee that that is taking you to the same depth of stillness and peace and calm on the inside in terms of the effect it had on your nervous system as maybe 2 or 3 hours of meditating. At least an hour. At least an hour. Just to get that from 1 minute. And that's why it's called mantra, which is mind tool. Because it immediately resonates with our inner mechanism, our inner esoteric makeup, which is actually what we are on the inside energetically, and awakens that to stillness. Our nervous system always wants to move towards stillness, and yet it's completely bombarded with busyness. And the reason why our nervous system is never still is because of the samskaras. Samskaras are not just dormant and sealed away. They're not just quiet. They become activated, they become triggered. And when a samskara is triggered, it aggravates and it agitates our nervous system as that emotion of that trauma or that pain or that memory is released into our consciousness. So all the time it's as if we have a color wash of samskaras that are either partially awoken, totally activated, or are going to sleep again. And they do usually work in collections, collectives at a time. So we're just totally bombarded, you might say, with neural noise. Constant neural noise from the astral plane. All those impressions, millions and millions and millions of them have been built up over the course of this lifetime. They're all sitting there, just working away at us all the time, creating this interference. But that's where mantras are more powerful, because deeper than our nervous system is our inner mechanism, our chakra system is deeper still. So behind all of that, you've got this. And even deeper still than the chakra system, you have sound. Because it's primal. So you're going much deeper and much further down and more powerfully into these vibrations that can totally pacify and calm the mind. Because that's considered to be more at the surface level of your consciousness. So Om Aim Sarasvatye Svaha works like magic. We all felt it, yeah? Okay, so I chant these mantras every day. I usually do them on beads. You often see the Buddha or saintly people sitting there with their beads. I have some beads I bought in India. They have 108 on a round, and I chant one round of this, the Om Aim Sarasvatye Svaha, once for each bead. And I do that all the way around 108 times, and I do that 4 times.
That keeps you busy.
Huh?
That keeps you busy.
I get really dizzy, yeah. Now it takes about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, yeah. It's amazing. Because then I'm ready then to step into doing my meditation. See, the difficulty most of us have with meditation is that it's so bloody difficult because our minds are just so busy. It's so hard to still the mind, to calm the thoughts, to pacify the heart and the emotions, to get to the feeling of stillness. And if we do, we can't hold it for very long. Very quickly another thought or another idea comes in and we're off again. Isn't it? And that's where mantra is so beautiful in terms of a preparation, because it just takes us straight there. It just cuts through all of that mind stuff and takes us right to stillness. I would say in less than a minute, 30 seconds even. It's enough. You could just do it once and you'd feel it. Yeah. Should we try? I'll do it once. I'm going to do another one once. Okay? And then see if you can feel this just once. We'll do the regular one that you like, John. Yeah? Okay, I'm just going to do this once and I want you just to see how this feels. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Can you still feel something? It's not as strong as when I did it 3 times, but it was there, yeah? Okay. The other thing we have here is, and this is a nice thing to introduce here because I missed it last time. And I got home and I thought, oh God, why didn't I do that? I did mention I was going to do it, and yet I didn't. So I'm going to do it now with you guys, which is that each chakra has its own sound. So you take all those petals together with all the bija notes and sounds, and they comprise a sound in themselves, combined, which in itself is a mantra or a sound. So these are the chakra activation mantras. And I also do this. I run through it once to activate and open my centers and chakras in order that I can be centered and again calm and still for meditation. So I have them here, one here. I'll run through them once and then we'll run through them together just quickly, and then we're going to move on. Yeah, I've got 5 minutes to describe the other practices. I'm always running out of time. But but I forgot this last time, so I really don't want to forget it this time again. So these are the mantras. For the root chakra, it's Lam. For the sacral, it's Vam. Solar plexus, Ram. Heart, Yam. Throat, Hom. Third eye, Om. And the crown is stillness. Just quiet. Can you feel that? I definitely can feel it. Feel completely activated. Just going through it once like that, and I usually do that 3 times. I don't think we'll have time to actually go through it here, but you get the idea, and you can practice this on your own. It's in the book if you want to grab one of them. So these mantras are all there. Okay, so that's mantra. So let's go back onto what Paramahamsa Yogananda taught and what came from his stable, you might say. Because what I normally do after mantras, I do something called pranayama. Now, in previous weeks here, we got a lot into describing the eightfold system of the ancients. We haven't got time today to get into that because I spent too long covering the basics to get into the eightfold system. Don't even know I have it here. Yeah, I have it here. We'll do that next time for those that are here for the first time, I promise you. And if I forget, remind me. We'll go through that. But we're going to go to step 4 straight away, which is called pranayama. Okay? So pranayama literally means prana, which is life force energy, and yama means restriction or restraint. So what pranayama means is a restraint or restriction on one's life force or breath, associated with prana. Prana is associated with masculine consciousness, whereas chi is associated with the feminine. So they are separate, they are distinct. Prana is masculine, chi is feminine. but they are both the same and identical, but completely different. You understand? Just like at the very beginning, when we separate into masculine and feminine, it's inconceivable that it's identical, but it's completely different at the same time. So that's prana and chi, and they often get confused, but they are different. So prana is often associated with consciousness and working with consciousness directly, whereas chi is often associated with nurturance, yeah, and vitalizing our physical well-being. Yeah. So we want to activate consciousness, we use the force of prana, because it's associated with the masculine principle, and that's pranayama. So it's breath control or breath restraint. And the type of pranayama that Yogananda taught, I'm going to teach a simplified version of it here. And we've had some success, haven't we? John, you were telling me you're having, over the last 3 weeks that we've been doing this, you've had some success with this process.
Yeah, a lot of bliss comes up with it.
A lot of bliss comes up.
Yeah,
Great. That's as it should be. And I think also last time you mentioned you were experiencing some symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah. I fantastic with focus. Actually.
Fantastic with focus. Okay. Yeah. Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have many different experiences with this, but one of the most profound experiences with this is that it will open your third eye, and you will start to see things on the inside, and you will start to know reality as the ancients knew reality from the inside out. Now that takes time, because to get to that level you have to do a daily routine of this. You have to be able to put in some work, in other words, to purify your samskaras, because this center here is very crystallized. It's very crystallized with a lot of samskaras that are actually lodged here. Yeah. So we have to purify our entire system even before we can get here. So it takes a little while. But even on this journey, you'll start to see things from time to time. You'll get flashes, you'll get insights, you'll get visions, you'll hear sounds as I did, and all this stuff will become apparent to you and quite normal after a while. It's quite amazing. The universe we have on the inside is far more incredible than anything you could imagine on the outside. It's an incredible place. And you're completely free and at liberty to explore it. To your heart's content. It's wonderful. And it's filled with ecstatic bliss. It's just, you couldn't ask for more. It's everything you ever wanted. Everything we're all yearning for is there. And it only takes a few minutes a day. Literally a few minutes. At the beginning, you'd only do pranayama for about 5 minutes, which is not long. As a discipline, that is very short. We used to, when we were in the ashram, have a 5-hour program every morning. 5 hours, not 5 minutes. So it's really, so things are really getting compressed down here to 5 minutes. So just to do this for 5 minutes. So what is the process? The process is very simple. You have to sit with a straight back. Yeah. Now you can sit on a chair or you can sit cross-legged. But the point of it is that your back needs to be straight. The way to check that is to imagine the crown of your head is being pulled up by a thread. And after it kind of, you adjust and just pull yourself up straight. We're going to use the mind and we're going to use the breath synchronized together. And you're only going to be breathing through the nose, in and out, through the nose, not the mouth, except if you've got a cold or some congestion in your nose, in which case you can breathe through your mouth, obviously. But otherwise, you're breathing in and out through the nose through the whole procedure. Now, the idea is you put your mind at the root, down here at the root of you, where we have the Kundalini in Kanda, the Muladhara center in Sanskrit, the base chakra. So you place your mind there, and you breathe completely out, and then you start to breathe in slowly. And as you breathe in, you move the point of consciousness from your root up the spine. So as you're breathing in, you're tracing with your mind up your spine exactly at the same time. Up to this point, is a little bit kind of below the bump here, at the back of your head. That is the posterior aspect of the third eye center. The third eye actually is not just here, it goes all the way through the head, from front to back. Enters into the medulla oblongata here at the top of the spine, goes through the pituitary pineal body in the middle of the brain, and comes out here in the middle of the forehead. So when you get to this point here, just at the root of your skull, you come diagonally across to the third eye. And you stop, because by that point your lungs should be full, and you should have traced exactly to that point in the same speed, in the same time that it took to take that one breath. You've travelled from your root to the third eye. You do not ever go to the crown, as some teachings do. It would be dangerous for you to do that because it could prematurely activate Kundalini, to go directly to the crown. you always come to the ajna center. Ajna is Sanskrit, it literally means control. It's this center here that controls the crown. So when we have this center awake and active, then this sends, you might say, the administrative command to the crown to open at the right time in terms of when your consciousness is ripe. But not until. Any time before that, you're not ripe to experience the oneness of universal consciousness. It will just blow your mind. It's dangerous. So you always come here, and then you're safe. Yeah? That's one in-breath. Then you've got to do the same in reverse. Out through the nose, breathing and tracing at the same time from here to the back of the head, and then all the way down to the root of the spine. In Sanskrit, that's called a kriya, or one round. And this is rooted in what Yogananda calls Kriya Yoga. And he recommends you do, I think, 12 breaths, which for me takes me about 7 or 8 minutes. You'll find at the beginning your breath is a little fast, and after about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe getting towards 5, you'll start to get very slow in your breath and very deliberate and focused in terms of this trace with the mind. And that's when it's really getting in with the power and the strength of that. Now you have to be very mindful about this because you are activating your whole energy system. You're activating the Kundalini force specifically. And this can have a powerful effect upon consciousness and also well-being. So along with this comes a word of warning. You have to do what is known in this work as self-pacing, because you can get overcooked. Because although this practice is very simple, it's actually also simultaneously very powerful. Very powerful. In fact, you have to hold back on this practice. Unlike a lot of practices in this day and age where you're just constantly working at it and getting very little or nothing, with this one you have to restrain yourself. Because if you go over, say 5 minutes in the beginning, you'll start to feel very emotionally overwhelmed and emotionally agitated. Because what's happening is that samskaras are actually being open and they're being, as it were, cracked in order that light and healing energy can come in and heal them. But in that opening process, they're being activated, you're getting the emotional release. And too many samskaras being activated and open all in one go can feel like you're in overwhelm. And historically, when this is being done in a very bad way, in an improper way, or through the use of drugs and things like that, then people can experience even madness and psychosis with this kind of thing. But you are very safe with what I'm teaching you here. Trust me, you are safe. But you have to monitor yourself. So if you're feeling a little agitated and you're feeling like things are a little disturbed, or you feel like, just ease back on the practice, or stop the practice for 2 or 3 days and then come back to it. Do you understand? Self-monitor, self-pace. You have to do that because these practices are very strong. And the other thing about this is that the stimulation effect that we get from this practice takes about 3 days or more to actually be felt. So you don't get an immediate feeling from this. So whereby you may be going and going and going at it for 2 days, 3 days, you should have stopped on day 1. So by day 4 or day 5, you're really feeling like you're getting overwhelmed all of a sudden. Because it accumulates up. It takes about 3 or 4 days. And then you get the effect of that. So please try and notice at the very beginning and try and monitor yourself and check yourself with this, that you don't go too far too quick, and stick with the routine. Only 5 minutes. Yeah, okay? You can do it twice a day, but only for that amount of time to start with. There are extra things that we can add to this that I'm going to introduce in time, that we can make this power even more powerful. But you don't want to be introducing those extra things at the beginning. Just keep with the simple practice. The second part of this is what we call deep meditation. So this is what they call here dhyana, meditation. And what we do with that is we forget about the breath control, we forget about breathing and tracing, we put that aside, and then we pick up in our mind a silent mantra. And then we just sit focusing on the silent mantra. It's exactly the same as in TM. In fact, I feel for sure the TM mantras are actually some of the bija mantras. They will be the Klim, or the Shrim, or the Aim. Some of you who do TM may recognize your mantra in there. They will be the bija mantras that the Maharishi was handing out for his disciples and for the people to silently chant. Silently chant. So this is a silent mantra that we pick up with our mind for just 5 or 10 minutes. Now we usually do the deep meditation with a silent mantra for twice as long as we do the pranayama. usually. But in the beginning, you could just do 5 minutes of each. It's what we normally teach. Yeah?
Can you do the chakra mantras?
Can I do the chakra mantras again?
No, I mean for the silent meditation, can you do the chakra mantras?
I haven't heard anyone doing them. Yogani, by the way, you can go and look up. You can look up the techniques and processes for this if you like yourself. You have to look up someone called Yogani, either on Amazon, or go to my website and click on Home Links, and you'll go straight to his website. His website's called AYP, or Advanced Yoga Practitioner. And that's basically his practices that I practice, that I'm handing on to you guys here. Okay, so it's AYP on the internet, Advanced Yoga Practitioner, or just look up Yogani. Or just go to my website, inneralchemy.eu, and you'll find it in the Home Links section. And you can download his books. They're very small. They cost about £3, I think, for just one book. You can download it as an ebook, or I think if it was a paperback book, it's about a £5. They're really great, and they'll really teach you all the details of this as we'll be going through these as the weeks progress. Always start with deep meditation, then go to pranayama, and there'll be other things that we'll introduce. But for now, we're just focusing on the pranayama and the deep meditation. How am I doing? Oh, we're nearly out of time. Okay. So look up your. Look at my site. You can go to it. You can get to it from mine. Now, what you must always do with your mind, if it goes wandering off and you start thinking about things, is just to prefer the silent mantra. Don't fight with your mind. What you will find if you do the mantras at the beginning and you do the pranayama is that you'll go much quicker into deep meditation. You'll go deep fast. But your mind will still start to surface like a cork from time to time, as everyone's mind does, and starts chattering away. At that point, you do not fight or resist the thinking or try and push them out of your mind and trying just to be still again. That's like trying to not think of a pink elephant, for example. You know, it's just impossible to do that. All you do is you prefer or make a preference to come back to the silent mantra. That's a preference. And you let the thoughts just go, like birds flying across the landscape. Yeah? So you always prefer the mantra to the thinking. And you keep setting back to the mantra. Silent mantra. Same with the spinal breathing. If you find you're going off during spinal breathing, your preference is always for the tracing with the mind. You come back to that. That's your preference. Yeah,
has the trace got a colour or a visualisation?
Well, Yogananda, yeah, he does describe that. If you notice when you breathe out and you breathe in, there's a different temperature. You know? Breathing in is cool, which is blue, and breathing out is red, which is hot. So he used to add these, and there are these elements, like I say, that we can add later, that when you're breathing in and up, it's blue. And then when you're breathing out and down, it's hot, it's red. So you see the trace as a blue trace and as a red trace. And you can do that. And the other thing to do, which I do, is the yogic breath. So you're breathing from your belly rather than from here. You see these bellies on these yogis, sometimes they're quite big. It's because they're always doing this abdominal breathing, which is from the diaphragm rather than from the thoracic cavity. So you do the breathing from here and here. So you're filling up the lungs and then filling up the diaphragm, and that's one breath. But the trouble with this at the beginning is it'd be very hard for you to keep thinking about red light and blue light and breathing in diaphragm where you're trying to trace. And you'll lose your trace in focusing on your breathing and these colours. So it's recommended at first that you don't do that and that you just really get the pattern of this trace and you get that into a habitual consciousness. So you can do that almost, as it were, automatically. And then you can add one thing at a time.
Is it safe to use this to go back to sleep in the middle of the night, for example?
No.
It's not. Okay.
No, the spinal breathing will actually activate and awaken you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the deep meditation is perfect.
Yes.
Only that. So you
right.
don't do the whole thing, just do the deep meditation.
Just the meditation.
Yeah, the stillness
Okay.
with the silent mantra.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, don't do the spinal, because that's it's a powerfully energizing process.
Yeah.
That'll keep you awake.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. What you must always do after that, and that's my cue, what you must always do after that is have a little rest. Not difficult, but you have to do that because the nervous system in the body takes time to integrate the changes. It takes at least 2 or 3 minutes if you're doing a 5-minute process. So in Norway, when we were teaching this, myself and my girlfriend Merlin, we would do a basic, what we would call 5-5-5. And that was something that basically I made up. It's not Yogani's process exactly, but we're not following Yogani's process exactly here because he doesn't do mantras, for example, which I'm very keen on. Yeah? So we introduced 5-5-5, and we found that worked really well. So we'd have 5 minutes of spinal breathing, 5 minutes of deep meditation with a silent mantra, and then 5 minutes just laying there resting, or sitting there resting. And you must do that. Resting is important for a few minutes. If you don't, you'll find your nervous system will get agitated or overcooked again, because there's changes that have happened need to bed in before you get up and get on with your day. So if you follow that, that will be 15 minutes, including a couple of mantras at the beginning. You may be doing a 20-minute process there. Ideally, that should be twice a day, but at least once a day in the morning is what I try and do. And I try and do it again in the evening if I'm not working or if I've got time. Yeah. But start off maybe once a day and see how it goes. And we've had a few guys here that have been doing that for some time, and yeah, we've had some great success with that. You do something different, don't you, Ashley? Or similar? Similar. Yeah, okay. This is not my process, and I'm not at all offended if anybody doesn't want to do this or they don't think it's right for them. That's perfectly okay. I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm hoping that some of you guys will just pick it up and run with it. And as I say, there's more instruction on Yogani's website if you want to go and get in-depth instruction, which we also will be covering in these fortnightly meetings that we have here.